Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning in to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the wild, wonderful mountain state. And today's date is Tuesday, August 17th, 2021. Yes, the big story. What happened in Afghanistan. Taliban taking over. Many people said that the CIA was approved. They were trained by them. Just to give you something to question. Innocent people, good folks over there are be suffering the wrath. And they all want to point the finger at President Joe Biden. Yes, don't get me wrong. I'm highly critical of the man for a very long time. He is part of the problem. He's going to be the fall guy, of course. He is responsible for his actions, absolutely, but not the mastermind. There's an old term called blowback when it comes to American foreign policy, which is very deplorable. All the years, especially since the CIA, going into other countries, telling them how to do, trying to dictate to them how their lives should be, bringing their own political puppets, and it backfires. Occurred in Okinawa, Iran, especially in the Middle East, Libya, now Afghanistan, just to name some. It's been an epidemic for a very long time that has to be extinguished. I support common defense, not imperial offense. I don't support foreign entanglements. Plus, an individual like myself wants to honor a republic, not an empire. The founding fathers warned us about this, including the men that wrote the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers. They have warnings about how dangerous an empire can be. All you gotta do is do a little historical reading, folks. Because we haven't learned from the past, we're damned to repeat it. This is why I find this very disturbing. It's just another example of why we've always lived in a dangerous world, but why gaslight on a slow pace. That's another thing, too. Bring our troops home. You have bases there, destroy them. Don't leave anything behind. Just totally destroy them. Take all the assets, the effects, get them out. I know people have served. Do respect that. Respect me for these things. Some good folks have suffered deaths. Now, like Tillman, he's one of them. Pat Tillman. And many others suffered spiritually too, and physically, on these illegal wars. And that's disturbing. Because who benefits? The military-industrial complex. That's one of them. The United States of America has to stop on being a patsy nation for the global order, one world order, new order, whatever you want to call it. It has to end. And of course, Zbigniew Brzezinski's legacy, a la Grand Chessboard. I recommend folks reading that book. I know I said it a couple times, but you should look it up. See if they have the library. I know some libraries, like even down in Fort Lauderdale, they they don't have it on their shelves anymore. I'm like, why? That should be up there. Because the past is today's greatest teacher. The people of Afghanistan has to take care of their own affairs. They've been tribal battles there for a very long time. The people over there gotta decide what they want. This is very disturbing. One of the reasons why I get mad about this. That's just one of them, folks. There's so many things that are going on. I know people don't hear about the stuff that's going on in Nigeria, areas of South Africa, in the mainstream news, even Newsmax, okay? Just to let you folks know, it's a lot more than that. I say end all wars, illegal wars. Bring our troops home. And I digress. Alright, so I'm going to be reading an article that came out yesterday. It's been trending. It's amazing, too. This one's entitled, Ron Paul Was Right, Trends on Twitter Following Stunning Afghanistan Collapse. Was Ron Paul really right about the Afghan war? Here's a look at one of his speeches made on March 17, 2011. John Miltonmore. As it reads here, after 2 decades of war, the U.S. occupation of Afghanistan finally came to an end. As of Sunday afternoon, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani fled his nation, NPR reported. The Taliban were on the verge of once again running the country, and President Biden authorized sending thousands of additional troops to try and safely extract U.S. diplomatic personnel and others out of Kabul. The shock was not that the U.S. had finally left Afghanistan. It was how swiftly the Afghanistan army collapsed and how ill-prepared the Biden administration and military brass appear to be for it. That left the world stunned. The fall of the U.S.-backed government in Afghanistan to the Taliban happened faster than almost anyone in Washington or Kabul could have imagined, NPR reported, noting that many were comparing the fall of Kabul to Saigon at the end of the Vietnam War. The rapid collapse of the American-backed regime immediately after its military props were withdrawn shows how little was accomplished in spite of all the American blood and treasure expended on the double-decade nation-building project in Afghanistan. The shocking development prompted decade-old comments from Ron Paul to resurface. The former Texas congressman begrudgingly voted for the initial use of force in Afghanistan in 2001, but became perhaps the most vocal critic of the war during his presidential run. Many have not forgotten. Ron Paul became a trending topic on Twitter Monday, with many writing, Ron Paul was right. Newsweek reports some shared a speech Paul, who ran to be the Republican presidential candidate 3 times, made about Afghanistan in 2011 and his 2012 farewell speech. Of course, one tweet here by Mr. Middlemore himself. Ron Paul was right about Afghanistan. A lot of people who died would be alive today if more had listened. This one here from being libertarian. He tweeted here, it took 20 years, but finally people are admitting Ron Paul was right on this issue. Hopefully they read End of Fed next. And of course it says here, his demean, perhaps we need to look at whether U.S. foreign policy actually reflects the American values we claim to be exporting before we point out the flaws in others. And of course, Lena Trav says here, you love to see it. Ron Paul was right. And it says here, some recall former GOP rep Ron Paul's arguments against the United States' involvement in the Afghanistan war as the Taliban retakes the country. And it says here, was Ron Paul really right? Let's take a quick look at one of his speeches made on March 17, 2011. After 10 long years, $336 billion spent, 1,500 Americans' lives lost, and thousands maimed, it's time to bring our troops home. Our servicemen and women and their coalition allies have performed valiantly. The United States has done everything possible to provide the opportunity for the Afghanistan people and the chance for democratic government there to mature and take hold. Afghanistan must take responsibility for its own destiny. To the fact of the matter is this: if now is not the time to leave, then when? Afghanistan has become the longest war in U.S. history with a price tag of $100 billion a year. At a time when we are contemplating cutting services for seniors, educational programs for children, and tuition assistance for working college students, that money could be spent more wisely elsewhere. Mr. Speaker, too much of our country's treasure has gone toward this war. But more importantly, the cost in human life, American and Afghan, has been enormous. As the world's greatest democracy, what kind of message does this war send to other nations? Do we do as we say, not as we do? And I don't like that term democracy, with all due respect. I love Congressman Paul, don't be wrong. So it is time to make our actions reflect our words. Get out of Afghanistan now. The question we are facing today is, we should leave Afghanistan? I think the answer is very clear and it's not complicated. Of course we should, as soon as we can. This suggests that we can leave by the end of the year. If we don't, we'll be there for another decade, would be my prediction. The American people are now with us. A group of us here in the Congress, a bipartisan group, for nearly a decade have been talking about this, arguing not to expand the war, not to be over there, not to be in nation building. And the American people did not pay much attention. Now they are. The large majority of the American people now say it's time to get out of Afghanistan. It's a fruitless venture. Too much has been lost. The chance of winning, since we don't even know what are we going to win, doesn't exist. So they are tired of it. Financially, there's a good reason to come home as well. Some argue we have to be there because if we leave under these circumstances, we'll lose face. It will look embarrassing to leave. So how many more men and women have to die? How many more dollars have to be spent to save face? This is one of the worst arguments possible. The swift collapse of Kabul and Ghani's government revealed how right Paul was in his predictions a decade ago. It's difficult to even think about the number of lives and treasure lost in the last 10 years because so many refuse to see what had become so obvious. But it is a reality we cannot ignore. If we do, Americans will fail to learn from the mistakes, constitutional, moral, and political, that led to the tragedy of the Afghanistan war. And if that happens, it's only a matter of time before we'll find ourselves entangled in yet another conflict half a world away. And there's the video on here, like a little over 6 minutes long, on his speech. And it's very merited. What can I say, my friends? If we don't learn from the past, we'll damn on repeating it. This is why as the only presidential candidate, believe it or not, I rallied around. All right? Both 2008, 2008, and 2012. And many of these neocon scumbags, I can say it to them, they're scumbags, neo-libtards, all these neo-quacks, laughed at me. ridiculed him, saying he needs to wear a tinfoil hat. Well, all you ingrates out there that despised him many years ago, and still do today, should wear one. Wear your damn dunce hat and stand in the corner. Because you have no principles. You're just a herd conformist. Walking antimatter. If you still have that mindset. Many of you will probably admit your mistakes. Then you apologize. That's fine. I've had many people do that with me too. And that's good. Because at least they learned something. But all you Huey and Deweys out there, dumb and dumbers, that believe we should go to war with these countries, I want you on the front line. Not your kids, you. Let's see how tough you guys are. And women. Warmongering bards out there. This is why I always support a republic, not an empire. Foreign policy, trade with all, align with none. Washington said that. A few others said that as well. You always got to prep up, pro-militia, absolutely. But why spend all this money that the banksters are benefiting the most? Yeah, they love this stuff. They make so much money, they want to put these nations into debt with their bogus assets. We need to shut down the Federal Reserve. They're not more than get them for treason, as far as I'm concerned, for starters. Enrico, possibly. And if there's the death penalty for treason, yes, as long as it's with due process, they have the right to a fair trial. Should have got out there a long time ago. But man, these so-called experts, these bobbleheads, I'll listen to what John Bolton, was it Bolton or Bolton? John Bolton had to say. I'm like, why you got this Zionist jerk-off on your show? He's one of those guys that love to thrive for war, but he'll put Palmolive soap in a bowl of Palmolive soap. His hands in there, okay? Put his hands in a bowl of Palmolive soap. That's him. Always study history, folks. That's all I gotta say on that. Always study it, because if not, and I said and I made the statement twice aforementioned. I'm not going to repeat myself. All right, that will be it. I thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, and you something that's interesting you want to check out, whatever you do, please send your correspondence to Decorum. Furthermore, I'll leave the footnote of this article on my Spreaker page. And if you want to contact me, go to LuckyLuck number 03 at protonmail.com. If you want to donate, go to paypal.me or cash.app/LuckyLuck number 3. If you want to support the FEE, which I believe it stands for Future of Economic Education. Yeah, a Foundation for Economic Education, FEE. That's a good site. Yeah, support them, donate, and all that. And subscribe to their newsletter. It's very good. They got very good information too. All right, folks. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.